All right, and joining us somebody who's been telling a lot of inconvenient truths about China, Jennifer Zeng. Thank you very much for speaking to us. You, in fact, have been commenting on how Shinzo Abe's death is being celebrated by some in China. Who are these people?
I have no idea. I think right now we can see thousands of online comments under the CCTV's news about Abes death, all celebrating. I think they are just ordinary internet users. And in the real world, at least within only several hours, at least I've seen two signs of shop owners. One is from a milk tea shop, promising that if you buy one milk tea, we will give you free to celebrate. They did use the word celebrate Abes death, and they even used the word in Chinese 普天同庆, which means the entire world is rejoicing his death. And another shop is a shop which sells bicycle. So if you to celebrate Abes murder, they say if you buy our bicycle, you will get a free riding gloves today. So in the real world and on the internet, I think there are many brainwashed Chinese, we call them little pigs, celebrating the Abes death as anti-Japan has been a long-term indoctrination of the CCP for its, I think, very important strategic purpose. They are not doing this in vain, and now you can see the result.
What is it that an ordinary Chinese citizen is told because of which they would hold such hatred towards Japan in general and Shinzo Abe in particular?
I think, for all these years, the CCP is building up this anti-Japan sentimentality, and sometimes it controls the public. You can say sentimentality and inside them. For example, in 2012, there were thousands, even in one city, I think that's Xi'an city, 100 million people took to the street to protest against China, and they smashed Japanese-made cars, smashed Japanese shops, restaurants, and that protest became very, very violent. And the verbal violence is everywhere. They virtually advertise or hold up a sign saying, kill all Japanese invaders and flood Tokyo with blood. So these are all these things we can see in all these years. People even get used to it. Chinese people is naturally anti-Japan. And also I forgot to mention, within only several hours of Abes death, there is a very long commentary article published by China's most important mouthpiece, CC, attacking Anbai, and also China's spokesperson Zhao Lijian openly, I think, comment when at today's, I think, daily news brief, when asked about his comment on Abes death. He openly said he had left nothing good for the world. So that long article attacked Abe as well as why the Japan-China relationship will be getting worse and worse, because Japan is obviously allied with U.S. and the U.S. is regarded by the CCP as an enemy. So they have obviously predicted this, and I've actually translated an 11-second video this morning about the CCP's spokesperson, Wang Wenbin, of foreign minister. He declared he attacked by saying former Japanese Premier Anbai blatantly made a lot of nonsense on Taiwan issue, and he openly challenges the bottom line of Chinese people, and so he will surely run into a bloodbath. In Chinese, it's 头破血流, which means his head will be broken and he will be shedding a lot of blood. So that we can regard as a death threat by the CCP openly at their daily press conference.
This is very, very serious charge you're making of a death threat.
Yes, 头破血流. You mean if your dead is broken, if you're bleeding a lot, of course that's a death.
Do you think that this reaction is directed only at Shinzo Abe, or is this about Japan as a whole? Or did he in particular do something to invite this kind of antipathy?
Yes, I think overall the anti-Japan sentimentality is very strong. But regarding Abe, there is, of course, particular, I think, hatred toward himself, because he is known for, his outspokenness about Taiwan. He once held a sign saying support Taiwan, or Taiwan stay strong. And I think especially in recent years, I think he's one of the most important political figures, although he's not in office now, in Japan, who is behind many very important policies, or the push towards the policies towards being more tough on the CCP, and especially to removing some articles in their constitutions to enable Japan to be able to defend itself. And in case the CCP attacks Taiwan, Japan has the ability to defend Taiwan, to offer support to Taiwan. So he, I think, is one of the most important political figures behind the most important political moves in Japan in all these years. So I have no doubt and no suspicion that the CCP would hate him the most.
Do you think that there could be a link of the murderer to China?
Of course, at this stage, we have no evidence or idea of, what's the motivation of the shooter, whether there is a link behind with the CCP. But I think safely say, if one day in the future we find out a connection between this assassination and the CCP, I will not be surprised at all. Like one Twitter follower, I think he left a comment on one of the tweets I made this morning saying the #1 suspect is the CCP.
Because he's already demitted office. He is not the Prime Minister anymore. What could China, and this is only hypothetically speaking, if one was to look at the conspiracy theories, what would they gain by having him out of the way?
I think they would gain a lot. This could slow down the process of Japan getting more active in defending its power. It could create political chaos inside Japan. And when the country is in chaos, of course, your ability to defend yourself is weakened. Recently, we've already seen that the CCP sent ships to the Sakaku Island area to create frictions. Actually, a while ago, I did a show, and I also wrote an article for Japan Forward, titling Unifying Taiwan Begins with the Sakaku. Actually, it is already the CCP's tactic revealed long ago, before his assassination, that in order to attack Taiwan, the CCP would create conflicts in the Sakaku area to force Japan to respond or fight back. And then the CCP would, spread their propaganda like Japan, we need to fight against Japan's neo-militarism. Like Russia is claiming they are invading Ukraine under the name of anti-neo-Nazism. communism in Ukraine. So the CCP will hold up a banner saying that fight against Japan's neo-militarism. So that's the righteous banner to hold on, and they will use this to divide the public in Taiwan, because Taiwan is also claiming sovereignty over Sakhaku. So if we are defending our sovereignty in Taiwan, Taiwan should join us. And there are two major political parties in Taiwan. One is Kuomintang, another one is the current ruling party, Minjindang, Democratic Development Party. So the CCP has a history of working with the Kuomintang in many decades ago to fight against Japan. So now they will promote a third cooperation with the Kuomintang. And if the current President Tsai Ing-wen doesn't work with the CCP, their inside hatred against her, and using the Kuomintang inside Taiwan to work against Tsai Ing-wen, maybe to initiate a sort of political coup to get rid of her. If she works with the CCP, unifying Taiwan is virtually done. So that's their plot or strategy.
Do you think, hypothetically again, if this was a political assassination, that other countries or leaders of other countries could also similarly be targeted by China?
Actually, I think this kind of thing is already happening. Some are as violent as the assassination of Abe. This is a very recent example. But if you look at what's happening in the political world recently, some are not non-violent, but the result is the same. Like in recent Australia election, I think a more pro-CCP party got elected. And there were a lot of work behind that. And of course, recently, British Premier Boris Johnson just announced, his resignation. I think for CCP, that could be also a win for the CCP. And so in many other countries, they're not only doing this violent attack because the success the chance to succeed is maybe not that high, but peaceful infiltration is another very powerful weapon the CCP has been using for all these years. They corrupt Western politicians and infiltrate. And even I think in the US, in one certain state, they've already actually passed legislation at the state level that is purely initiated by the CCP. So they've already done this sort of thing.
All right, alarming indeed. Of course, that being said, details are still awaited, still very, very foggy about what the motive of this very, very sudden and horrifying murder was. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.